Hello there, I'm Neil Quigley. Welcome to episode 3 of my Blogcast. I've been doing a fortnightly blog on my website for the last 12 years. I've now finally brought it a bit more up to date in that it's now a blogcast. So what I would have written about in the blog, I now just have a chat to you about now whilst having a nice cup of tea and chilling out in my home studio. First thing to tell you is it could sound a little bit different this week as I come to grips with the fact I have a new computer. My old one finally packed up. I've had it for I think about 12 years, and for the last year or so, every time I've turned it on, it has said fatal hard disk failure imminent, and I've had to press F1 to get it going. But it worked perfectly well. It kept going. Sadly though, it finally reached the end of its shelf life the other week, so I had to go and buy a new one. So I've got a new computer. I managed to transfer all the old things across to the new computer, which is good, but I'm still working on setting up the studio side of things. So if I sound a bit different this week, that's why. A couple of weekends ago, I went with my girlfriend to see Upstart Crow, the theatre stage version of the Ben Elton TV show starring David Mitchell. I actually went and saw a recording of one of the episodes of the TV show about 4 years ago, I want to say, and that was absolutely brilliant. Love the show from the TV. It's just so well written and well acted as well. The cast are great. It gives you an education in Shakespeare, and there is so many topical jokes in it, which is what Ben Elton is so good at with those historical style shows. It was another one of those theatre experiences where the price of the seats when getting the stalls were not much different for the price of a box. So we got ourselves a box to enjoy the action from. Pluses and minuses of boxes. The pluses are generally there's less people than in other areas of the theatre. The minuses, you can't always see everything on the stage. There are some blind spots. Although weirdly, this box, and I think this is quite odd, normally you'd expect a box to contain either 2 or 4 seats. That kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Well, the box we were in for this show had 3 seats, and Linda had already walked across the stall areas below to go to the facilities. She'd looked up at the box that was ours, and she'd noticed there was somebody already in it. So 3 seats, somebody already there. So after we had had our pre-theatre refreshments, we walked up to go to our box, obviously knowing someone was in there. As we walked into the box, and I can only presume the lady in there thought that nobody else was going to be in there, because there were 3 seats. They were labelled 1, 3 and 2 in that order, which sounds to me like someone has put those chairs in the wrong order. Anyway, she was sitting in chair 3, right in the middle. So we had that awkward standoff when me and Linda were thinking, well, we're not sitting either side of you, we are going to sit together. She did kind of twig, and she did move, all very amicable. She was a lovely lady down from Wales for the weekend to visit some mates. They were doing something, so she had taken herself to the theatre. All good. The show itself was exactly like the TV programmes are, in that it focused on William Shakespeare writing one of his famous plays, but as ever with the TV show, using things that were happening around him to shape and write the show. It does feature lots of actual bits of Shakespeare, so all the actors got to give their best Shakespeare auditions. It's very wordy, the way it's written. There's a lot of things to remember, not only the Shakespeare stuff, but the bits that Ben Elton writes in as well. The cast were absolutely fantastic. It did feature some of the main actors from the television show. David Mitchell playing William Shakespeare, of course. Rob Rouse was playing Bottom, and Gemma Whelan was playing Kate. They are fantastic actors, and they were all absolutely brilliant, as were the entire cast. There's some surreal bits, there's some odd bits, there's some downright stupid bits, but also as well, and Ben Elton is so good at this, I think there was some sort of reference made to pretty much all these social talking points that you could imagine over the last 150 years. The show actually had a reference to pretty much everything you can imagine, from the current state of trade travel to everything else in between. And the important thing was, it was very, very funny. And something happens at the very end, which was very unexpected. I'm not sure if I should give this spoiler away, but the play hasn't got too much longer to run, so I'll risk it. Right at the end, in keeping with the style of a Shakespeare performance, the whole company do a dance on stage, and that includes David Mitchell dancing. It was as interesting and different, but yet as entertaining as I thought it might be. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a really good night out of the theatre. I was laughing so much. It was one of those nights when we left, my jaws were aching. I do hope they make another series of it if they're able to find the time to write it. It's just so good and very, very funny. Another top night out at the theatre. I spent around about 3 years working for the FA at Wembley in their tour guide department, taking tours around Wembley Stadium and also helping out sometimes on football match days, often on NFL match days. It was a great experience, and I spent a lot of time obviously in the area. Not been to Wembley for a while. One of Linda's friends lives in that area, and I've got a good mate who lives there as well. So the other weekend we went and saw Linda's friend. We just caught up with her for some tea and coffee. I had tea, they had coffee, and we just sat outside. It was quite a nice afternoon with the stadium in the background behind us and everything going on. Of course, you've got the Wembley Outlet Shopping Centre there as well, so we did have a bit of a look around there. I spent a lot of time aimlessly wandering around there when I was working at Wembley Stadium in my lunch hour, and sometimes when I was a bit early for work. Happily, while I was also there, I did manage to catch up with my mate from Wembley briefly as well. So it was nice to catch up with him. Now, I don't know if it's just me who's finding this nowadays, or just the state of our lives, or maybe I'm not being very organised. There's so many people I need to catch up with, and I keep saying, oh yeah, we must organise a date, I must sort drinks out, and the weeks just keep flying by at the moment, and for various reasons, mostly football and going to Spurs in the week, I guess, and actually working as well. That does take up a lot of our time. I just haven't managed to organise to see half as many people as I plan to and as I want to. I really do need to try and manage my time a little bit better so I can catch up with all the people that I've been meaning to. You are listening to the Neil Quigley Blogcast, which is basically just me having a cup of tea and having a chat, really, telling you about what I've been up to, things I would have written in the blog when I was doing that. Now, a lot of things kind of happened as a result of the COVID lockdown. One of them was, obviously, we found ourselves in a lot more than we usually would be, particularly at weekends. I seem to have developed a new amount of television programmes that I never watched before, but now I watch with Linda. We tend to watch them together, spare time at weekends. There's a set number, and there's a set lot of programmes. One of them is First Dates, which is the sort of thing I would have avoided like the plague initially. But once you start watching it, you kind of get a bit hooked in, and you do become, I find, very judgy. I like to try and decide instantly, even before the couple have actually met on their date, just when they show them independently, if they're going to get on or not. I like to try and gauge the reaction when they meet and try and work out the body language to see if they're going to be compatible and if they're getting on or not. And you know what? 9 times out of 10, I get it completely wrong. Got absolutely no idea. The people I think are going to hate each other end up dating, and the people I think are going to get like a house on fire end up arguing by the end of the date. But it's all good fun. I do enjoy it. The most recent series of this is First Dates Hotel, which is same as First Dates, but they fly them out to a nice hotel in Italy, put them up for a few nights, let them get a bit of sun and have the date in the same way. But weirdly, they take all the staff and ship them over to Italy, and they're all there. Obviously, you got Fred, who is sophisticated, he's cool. Supposedly, the hotel manager, I get the impression he's not very hands-on, you know. I think he might only turn up when the cameras are there. But my favourite member of the cast of First Dates has got to be Merlin. Not only can he make any drink you could think of in the world, well, he is the one who gets to ask all the probing questions. He gets to calm them down before they go on their date, and also as well, he gets to have a bit of fun. And I'm not saying he sometimes teases them, but he's definitely sometimes sets things up in quite a funny way. So that's something I've got into recently, but something I've been watching from the very start has returned to our TV screens last Sunday. That is I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. I absolutely love that show, and I have from the start. It's one of the few programmes I look forward to every year. I don't watch much TV, but I do love it when that comes on. I'm a massive Ant and Dec fan. I think they're fantastic, they're funny, they're such great TV presenters, and this is their perfect vehicle. They're just so good at teasing the celebrities, doing those funny links, messing about. It's just nice. It's just a good fun build-up to Christmas. This is how much of an I'm a Celebrity fan I am. When I went to Australia for the first time a couple of years ago, mainly I went to see some family in Sydney. But while I was there, I thought, well, you don't go to Australia every day. I've got to get up to the Gold Coast and stay at the hotel where they go back to after they get kicked out of the jungle. It's called the Versace Hotel. It is quite a classy hotel. I went and stayed there for 3 nights and just basically pretended I'd been kicked out of I'm a Celebrity. I was lying around by the pool. I was trying out the restaurants. Also, as well, if you watch the programme, they often go back and have a big spa bubble bath in their rooms. I had a room that had a spa bath in, so I'm not going to lie, I enjoyed that more than once. Had the old bubbles and a nice glass of red wine while I was just chilling out and relaxing in my room. It was so good. And weirdly, one of the bellboys on reception there looks uncannily like Dec. It's just quite weird. He does look like Dec's younger brother. I tried to discreetly get a photo of him, but I kind of failed, unfortunately. Anyway, massive fan of the show. Generally, there's always somebody every series who I've either met before they've gone in there or been lucky enough to meet after they've come out of the jungle. This year is no exception. I've met Chris Moyles on a couple of occasions. Well, I say a couple of occasions. The first one's an almost meeting. When I was about 17 or 18 and I was trying to break into radio, I got the offer of a tech opping job for Chiltern Gold, which was based over in Dunstable, and it was at the same studios as Chiltern Radio. I went over there one night to meet the guy and do a bit of an interview and, you know, go through what the job involved, etc., etc. So we're in the AM bit, 'cause it was an AM station, the Gold Channel. So we're there and he's kind of showing me what to do, etc., etc. The FM studio is kind of above us and like a glass bowl, basically. And there's a young DJ from Leeds in there who did a networked evening show across the whole group, not just the radio station I was looking around, but the whole group. And I was 17, fascinated by radio, and the AM stuff I was looking at was literally reel-to-reel tapes, CDs and cart players. And the studio that this presenter was in looked space age, and it was on a rise, and you know, my eyes kept getting drawn to it. I did keep kind of staring and watching what was going on. And it was Chris Moyles in his early days before he made it to Capital FM briefly, then on to Radio 1. And he basically told me off. Well, indirectly, he spoke to the guy who I was with and asked him to point out that his studio was not a goldfish bowl, basically. So that was the first time I kind of almost met Chris Moyles. No idea who he was at that point. However, when I met him the second time, I did know who he was. When I was working at Ivell FM in Yeovil, Chris released his second book. He did an autobiography, and then he did a second book, which was kind of stories from more up-to-date stories from radio and a few other bits and pieces. Anyway, he did a book tour, and as part of that book tour, he came to Yeovil. Now, I was doing the afternoon show. I think Chris was there about midday or something like that. It was during lunchtime. So I left Ivell FM to go up to Waterstones in Yeovil to buy a copy of Chris's book and get him to sign it, which he did. I had a quick chat to him. It was great. He signed the book, no problem at all. And I don't know why I did this. I still don't know why I did this, but I bought him a present. I gave him an Ivell FM pen that I happened to have lying around. I have no idea what he did with it. I don't know how long he kept it, if he kept it at all, but I gave him that. And he asked me to do a shout out for him on the radio. Now I thought, well, I can't really do a big shout out for Chris Moyles on Radio 1 as he was then. So I just said, I gave a nice shout out to Chris and said it was nice to meet him. I know he wouldn't have been listening, but, you know, I thought it was the least I could do. Although he did make me pay for the book still, thinking about it. I've always liked Chris as a broadcaster. I love listening to his radio shows. I think he's very, very good. I think he'll do all right on there. I was very impressed with the way he embraced the skydiving straight away. I know he's quite good friends with Paul McKenna, and I think I could spot in the helicopter. He was definitely doing some relaxation techniques and I think Mr. McKenna might have taught him. Anyway, it worked. He got out of the helicopter and managed to get to the ground, which is fair play. Boy George could be quite interesting. I think as the makeup wears off and so his temper frays a little bit, that could be quite interesting. Mike Tyndall just seems like an absolute legend, doesn't he? So cool, calm and collective, funny and just reassuring. I think he's the sort of bloke you like to have with you anywhere, particularly in the jungle. Jill Scott, she was going to be amazing. She was fantastic. Of course, the Lionesses in the Euros. She is going to be great, I think. Yeah, it's going to be quite an exciting series. Notice I'm not mentioning one of the people who are going to be dropped in later. I'm enjoying watching it. Ante Dekker on top form, and I'll be watching it as much as I can. I haven't got anybody I particularly want to win. I'm not bothered really, no clear favourites. I just like them to all get on and have a bit of a laugh. I know some people think it makes great TV when they're rowing and arguing. I just find it really uncomfortable. I hate watching stuff like that. I like it if they're having a laugh, joking with each other, and the atmosphere's good. That's what I'm hoping for mainly for this year's show. It's been up and down for my team, Tottenham Hotspur, once again. We qualified, winning the group in the Champions League to go to the next stage, and we now face AC Milan in the new year, which is brilliant. We did it the hard way. At one point, we were in the Europa League, then we were through in second place, and thanks to a last-minute goal, we topped the group. So we did very well there. Since then, though, things haven't been going quite so well in the league. We've had a couple of defeats at home, which has not been ideal. It's just been a bit flat and disappointing. I'm actually quite looking forward to the World Cup break now, I think. We've got one more game to play. That's Leeds United at home this afternoon. I'm going to that, and then we get a break from the Premier League to see how England get on in the World Cup. Just the weekly reminder that you can catch me Saturday afternoons between 2 and 4 on radio9springs.com for my weekly radio show there. And lastly, I guess this is a bit of a boast, I'm afraid, but, you know, it does explain where I will be and why there might be a bit of a longer gap in Blogcast than usual, and it will give you an idea of what the next one might feature. I'm very lucky, I know, but I'm off on holiday for a week to Cape Verde on Monday. Very much looking forward to it. Going to have a week in the sun with my girlfriend in November, and it should be great. So looking forward to that. Have a great couple of weeks. Look after yourselves, take care, and I will speak to you very soon. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye for now.